Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi joins me now. It's great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and a healthy one to you.
Thank you. So I wanted to start just with January 6th and the threats to our democracy and how important it is, because Mitt Romney, who is a defender of democracy and has been brave at many moments, but he said recently to the New York Times, quote, "As a Biden campaign theme, I think the threat to democracy pitch is a bust. January 6th will be 4 years old by the election. People have processed it one way or another. Biden needs fresh material and to attack rather than kicking a dead political horse." Now, my view is that this is about how Trump will govern. But what do you think in terms of a central argument and how central it will be in this election?
Well, with all due respect to Senator Romney, and I do respect him, I think a campaign is what you make it. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about democracy and why January 6th was important, we have to convey to people what it means to them. Mm-hmm. So I see his point, well, just in isolation, this is not enough. But what it means to them. A democracy, it's about freedom. Mm-hmm. It's about, he says, Trump says, Obamacare sucks. Mm. Forgive my crudeness, but I'm just quoting the president.
You're quoting him. It's not your word.
Obamacare sucks. No. The Affordable Care Act cures. Mm-hmm. So he says he wants to undo that. He criticizes the senators who voted against terminating it. And so this is about freedom. Freedom to have access to health care. Freedom to have access to health care in terms of reproductive freedom for women and families, as the size, timing, and if they will have a family. A freedom of people to be able to have care at home so that they can have the freedom to work and grow their families in a very productive way for the future. So it's not just about the ideal of freedom, which would be enough reason. Mm-hmm. Our Constitution, the Congress of the United States being so there would be enough reason. But you have to translate it to the kitchen table, because what is in truth about what he says is people make votes in a different way. And I believe they make votes as to what comes to that kitchen table. Affordable health care is not only about health of a person, it's about their financial health, being able to afford health care. What we did in the IRA to reduce the cost of insulin from $500-600 a month for seniors on Medicare to $35 a month, the Republicans want to overturn that. What we did about the Secretary of HHS being able to negotiate for lower prescription drug policy, they want to take that to court and overturn that. So this is what it means to you. And your financial security is part of your freedom.
So it's about making it real for people. And that's so important because people vote in that way. I did want to ask you, I mean, you wrote this powerful op-ed, I reread it today again, about the anniversary of January 6th. And you were there that day. You were so heroic that day, and you outlined a lot of what happened. And recently this weekend, Donald Trump repeated the lie that those convicted for their involvement are hostages. He used the term hostages. Yeah. And I just wanted to know what you thought of that, or what your response was when you heard him say that.
Well, he's a disgrace. Let's put it this way. But we've known that for a long time. His disrespect for the Congress, for the Capitol and the rest has been clear. He came to the Capitol and gave a Presidential Medal of Freedom to one of his thug friends right there on the... Get out of here. This is our place. He talked politics on the floor of the House. We don't do that. We talk policy. Mm-hmm. And in any event, let's not even worry so much about what he says, except it is what he says he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And that is what we have to convey to people. You understand this. He has no faith and belief in Social Security and Medicare or anything like that. Mm-hmm. He, again, thinks Affordable Care Act, Obamacare sucks, to use his always crude language. So these people who still support him, who are they? They're people who don't share our values about respect for the dignity and worth of every person. They're rich people who don't want to pay their fair share of taxes, so they pour money into the Republican system. But then there are people who really do have serious concerns. What does it mean to their family, whether it's innovation or globalization or immigration? women being more involved, LGBTQ and the rest of that, they have concerns. And we have to make sure they understand that what we're doing, what President Biden has been doing with all of his legislation is to make sure everyone has access.
And has their vote is heard and that their rights are respected. I did want to ask you, because, you know, you are Speaker Emerita and you are so familiar with the rules of the House. We spend a lot of time talking about the threat of Trump and the role. But this weekend, when she was asked, Elise Stefanik was asked about whether she would certify the election, I mean, she's in Republican leadership. She didn't commit to that. Should we be focusing more on what Republican leaders might do to help Trump or not do the roles that they were elected to do?
Well, understand this. You know, and you've shown that he has said that he would not even promise not to engage in overthrowing the government. The pledge.
Yes,
in Illinois.
He's
said that this is
which he signed. So people who aren't familiar with what you're talking about, he signed it in 2016 and 2020 and did not sign it, which stuck out to me, and clearly you too as well.
Yeah. But the fact is that it isn't a question of whether she's going to certify it. It's a question of what the American people are going to do, and we have to make sure they know their votes will be counted as cast. And that whoever wins the vote of the Electoral College, I wish we didn't have it, but we do, will be certified. And God bless Mike Pence. He had the courage to follow the rules, to do what was right, even though he was being threatened with his life by the President of the United States, inciting the insurrection that he did and calling on them to take it out on Pence. But Pence knew there is no power to overturn what the public has done. Now, I do know the rules of the House very well, and I know the Constitution very well. And they were trying to manipulate it at the time. The House shall choose. They wanted to take it to a place where it was a mess to certify the Electoral College. So the Constitution says if that isn't decisive, then the House of Representatives voting by state. That means California, with 40 million people, has one vote. Yeah. That means other states, with not even 1 million people, have one vote. And that's just not. Our founders did not have that.
That was not what they intended. But people's voices are powerful. We are going to sneak in a very quick break. Speaker Emerita is going to stay with me, and we'll be right back in a moment. We're back with House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. So, Speaker Pelosi, just when we think it can't get crazier, it kind of does. In an interview just tonight, Donald Trump made an interesting remark. Interesting is one way of describing it, about the economy. And I just want to play it for you.
We have an economy that's so fragile, and the only reason it's running now is it's running off the fumes of what we did, what the Trump administration. It's just running off the fumes. And when there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months. Because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
I memean, basically, he wants it to crash because he thinks it's good for him. We know it always comes back to him, but what's your reaction to that?
Well, it's just another manifestation of the insensitivity and the grotesqueness of this person. What he doesn't care what that means to the kitchen table interest of America's working families. Maybe some of his rich friends who pour money into his campaign because they don't want to have to pay taxes might take notice of his ineptitude, not understanding that the economy is right. And by the way, that was a stupid statement he made. He also made an untrue statement.
Yes.
We're not living off his fumes. No. We are not living off his fumes. Joe Biden has done a remarkable job as president of the United States. Just around 14 million jobs, maybe more by now with the latest report. Lowest unemployment, cut it in half. The path of inflation going down. He has been remarkable, and he has done it in a way that has justice, social, economic, environmental justice in every way. That's not anything this person would understand.
No, he's a bit of a revisionist historian.
Yeah, he calls himself a messiah. I guess he doesn't know much about the Messiah. He says he wants the economy to crash. I guess he doesn't know what that means to America's working
That
family.
may be true.
It's time for an intervention. Maybe his family, maybe some Republicans.
Maybe if they're watching, you're calling for an intervention. I just asked you, I mean, in one of your many roles you've served in is on the Intelligence Committee.
Yes.
And Secretary Lloyd Austin obviously was recently in the ICU. He did not disclose that, which has received a strong reaction from Republicans and Democrats as well. How concerned are you about that lack of disclosure?
Well, my first concern is about his health and what the nature of that is and why he would not disclose it. But the chain of command is something that really does have to be respected. And the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief. He should have known. But again, we don't know the particulars of this, but I do think that this could have been handled much better.
Do you still feel confident in him serving as Secretary of Defense?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Secretary. I think he's done a remarkable job as Secretary of Defense. He commands great respect. In fact, I was going to give him a call this past week about something, and I thought I'll just do it when I get back to D.C. But that's really something up to him and the President of the United States, because nobody knows better than the Secretary of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief about the chain of command.
I think I know what you're going to say here, but in our limited time left, do you have any resolutions or hopes for the new year?
Just win, baby. We got to win this election. We've launched our health care campaign, which will duplicate what we did in 2017-18 to make sure the public knew what was at stake in the election, that the health care is on the ballot, and it's being on the ballot puts every person on the ballot. Their goodness, their well-being, their opportunity, a better future for their children, and strength of our democracy.
Speaker Emerita Pelosi, it's Happy New Year. Wonderful to have you on our first show back. I could talk to you about every topic under the sun. It's always great to have you here. I think many people watching probably share your New Year's resolutions or your hopes as well, and are now going to be interested in what you just described. But I'm very grateful that you were here with us tonight for your time.